Welcome to the Commissioner's Report. I'm your host, Tricia Pichette. When we think of economic development, we usually think of homes being built or new businesses opening up as a barometer for how the economy is doing. But have you ever wondered how much of an impact the Lakeland Airport has on the economy? In this program, Commissioner Bill Braswell is joined by Gene Conrad, Airport Director of Lakeland Linder International Airport, and they'll give us an update on the impact of aviation in Polk County. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Now, Commissioner Braswell, why is this topic important to you?
Well, you know, prior to doing this county commission thing, aviation was what I did for almost 30 years, and I got to see the impact of airports and what they can do to the local economy. And you know, it's very impactful. It can make a big difference, and it's just something we just don't think about that much. You know, I can give you an example of when I was getting out of the Air Force, a lot of Air Force Reserve bases were closing, and they became commercial airports that are thriving. George Air Force Base out in California is the one that comes to mind for me, but they've just turned the economies around in some of those communities, so they're a big deal.
Well, the EAA fly-in is a huge yearly event. Mr. Conrad, could you speak to the financial impact that has on the county?
Sure. Well, the Son of Fun Fly-in and International Expo, obviously it's critically important to not only our airport but the county. And I know they just did an economic impact right before the fly-in a couple weeks ago, and I believe their economic impact is well over $250 million to the region. Now that includes the fly-in, obviously, which is a 6-day program, but also the year-round activities that are happening on their expo campus out there. So not only do they have the fly-in, but there's a lot of events and groups that they're bringing in on a year-round basis. But for our airport and the county as a whole, as far as our operations, I believe we did over 7,000 operations in a 6-day period, which is a lot for an airport. And I also know when you look at the other airports as well, when you look at Winter Haven, Gilbert Field, and Bartow Municipal Airport, they also see a significant influx of aircraft that are arriving and departing there because we can only handle so much, and we only operate for certain periods because we have a 3 to 4 hour air show every single day. So when we shut down, aircraft have to go somewhere else, so they're going to the other airports, and I know they get quite busy as well. So it is a huge deal for us, and is really what's put us on the map as far as an airport for 45 years now, and we look forward to them continuing to grow and grow their programming, especially with their high school, the Central Florida Aerospace Academy, and also Polk State College Aerospace that's on the airport as well. So a lot of great things happening with Son of Fun, and again, a huge impact to us.
Very good. Well, in terms of economic impact, what are some of the new things that have happened?
And we have 75 businesses and organizations that are located on the airport, and over 1,500 people a day are going to work in our facility, city-owned facilities out at Lakeland Linder. A lot of people don't know that. It keeps us up a lot and keeps us busy because we have 1 million square feet of facilities, 1,700 acres that we take care of, and all this influx of people coming and going every single day. So it's a lot on a staff of 16 people. Economic impact was $574 million annually.
Wow.
So then when you take our impact, including Bartow and Winter Haven, and when you look at Lake Wales as well, we're probably, when you add it all up, well over 600 million, 650 million economic impact to our county every single year. And again, a lot of people don't know that because unless you're out there for Sun and Fun or you work at one of our businesses, you're not seeing all of the activity. But we are driving a tremendous amount. In the last 9 years, over $150 million has been invested in our facility. 90 million of that coming from the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, and also the FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, District 1 here. Over 90 million coming from grants, about another almost 15 million investment from us, and then private development. We have another hotel on the airport. We have 3 solar farms on the airport, our high school being built. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot more to come as well.
You got to tell them about Draken.
Just, well, I appreciate that. Teed that one up for me. So when you look at our businesses, and a very, very unique business for us is Draken International, and they came to us in 2011 and have been calling Lakeland home since then, but they started as a civilian-owned jet team. So you see the Blue Angels like we just had at Sun and Fun, of the Thunderbirds, and they're the military, but a civilian-owned jet team, those are pretty rare, but they came to us as the jet team with an idea of, hey, we're going to go buy Air Forces from around the world. We're going to bring them here to Lakeland and Polk County. We're going to regenerate these airplanes, and we're going to contract them out to the Department of Defense. And we said, okay, sounds good. Well, let's see what happens. And right now, it's 2019. They are the 4th fastest privately owned company in the state of Florida and the 18th fastest growing in the United States. They won a $280 million contract from the Department of Defense last summer, and there's another $6 billion worth of contracts coming out. What is Draken International? So I just said all these numbers, right? So if you, I'm sure hopefully a lot of people have seen Top Gun, Jester and Top Gun. They do aggressor training, contract air services for the Department of Defense. So they are the bad guys. So all of their flyable assets are out at Nellis Air Force Base right now, flying at Fighter Weapons School for the U.S. Air Force.
And then didn't they just expand their warehouse, increase the size, all
Yes.
the parts come through here?
That's
all the
correct.
maintenance?
So they started with 30,000 square feet in our Airside Center complex, and now they have 150,000 square feet. Just add another 45,000 square feet. Because they just purchased another Air Force's aircraft. They purchased 22 F-1 Mirages from the Spanish Air Force.
Wow.
And another 12 Cheetahs from South Africa, which are on their way here as well. So their warehouse right now, her hangar, is full of airplanes and parts.
Another thing, the hurricane hunters have come here
Yes.
in the last 2 years,
Yep.
and that's a big deal.
Yeah, well, we're very, very fortunate. We were called back in February 2016 by the Department of Commerce and said, would you like to host hurricane hunters at your airport? And we said, great. Well, when can we start? But it's always easier said than done. But we had to go through a long process with the Department of Commerce and to get them here. But again, we're very, very fortunate with our Florida Department of Transportation here at District 1. It was a $19 million project. We built them a 106,000 square foot facility for their 9 airplanes and 110 people in 5.5 months. So the state put in half the monies. The airport, we're an enterprise fund, so we put in $5 million, and NOAA put in 4.5 themselves. So with our partners, again, with the state and our abilities to, with the city of Lakeland and our commissioners believing in what we're doing, this thing off. So
And
it's great.
pulling it off quickly had a lot to do with getting the bid,
That's
too,
correct.
right?
They had to be in that building ready to go for hurricane season 2017, which starts on June 1st every year. And we would always joke when we were building this thing, or we were trying to lure them here. We were like, well, if the planes ever leave and there's a hurricane coming, we know we're in trouble. And here comes Irma, and all the planes left, and we're like, oh no. But we all weathered it really well, and the building did just great. It's a tilt wall, concrete wall construction, so it's a very robust facility. But again, it was just funny because they all left, and we're like, okay, well, we'll see you when you get back. So
Hope we're here.
yes.
Now, do you see major airline service at Lakeland Linder Airport in the future?
Well, I definitely see it, and as we all know, this county is exploding right now as far as growth and development. When you take it up to a state level, and there are 800 to 1,000 people a day moving into the state, and where are they all going to go? And where's a great place to live? And I got to tell you, Polk County is a great place. I mean, I actually live in Auburndale. Just moved out there back this last August. But it's a great place to live, and the quality of life here is great, and it's low cost of living too. I mean, it's very affordable to be here. And so with all of that, and we already have 670,000 people in our MSA, so it's Lakeland Winter Haven MSA, but it's really all of Polk County. We're the 82nd largest population center in the United States without commercial service. So out of the top 100, there are 4 without commercial service, and we're one of the 4. Now granted, I know there are people out there, well, yeah, because you have Tampa and Orlando and a tremendous amount of service at both those airports, and we understand and get that. But with our studies, we've done leakage analyses over the past several years, looking at how many people are actually booking in the zip codes that we live in, and we're able to pull that data. And when we shrink it down and we look at just about a 20-mile radius around the airport, there are 2,400 people a day flying out of the zip codes around the airport, about a 20-25 mile radius, and 2,400 people a day flying in.
Wow.
Now granted, they're not flying in and out of our airport, right? But we're all forced to drive on I-4, which gets worse and worse every single day. And then when you also look at what's happening again with our employment, all the businesses that are moving here, Geico, that's on the south side of the airport with 3,500 people, Public Supermarkets, the largest employer in the state, which is headquarters is 1 mile north of the airport, getting ready to grow and expand. They alone do 350 to 500 vendor meetings in their corporate headquarters every single week.
Wow.
Wow.
So they have 3,600 vendors. The top 100 have offices in the region, which makes sense, but they have 3,500 vendors from all over the country that need to get here and to have meetings. And how are they getting here? Well, they're forced to go to Tampa and Orlando and drive and do all these other things. So when you look at all that, plus our population, and we continue to grow, and it's not easy for us to, unfortunately, I appreciate the CEO of Delta Airlines, and he was here last year for the Southeastern Forum. And our mayor was there, Bill Mutz, and Commissioner Franklin, we were standing there, and he said, "We love serving your community through Orlando." Well, I appreciate that, sir, and I love your airline, but the problem is you don't have to drive I-4 every single day, and it gets worse every day. But again, for our economy and for our population to continue to grow and offer those services and the quality of life, we need to be able to move people in and out of this community efficiently. And if we can get to a place like Charlotte, Atlanta would be the perfect fit, but unfortunately Delta's not. Charlotte works. But really I think our best bet is American Airlines to Charlotte with 2 or 3 flights a day, which would be perfect for us, 70 to 90 seat regional jets. So if you're looking at 210 to 270 seats a day, and we're moving 2,400 out every single day, we're really not asking for a lot. And I'll still go to Tampa and Orlando for non-stops, and if the schedule makes more sense, but we will have it here shortly. And I know we've worked with our TDC, Polk County Sports Marketing, and the city of Lakeland. We're putting together what's called a minimum revenue guarantee, because there's risk for an American if they chose to come here. There's some risk, and we want to backstop any losses. So we're working on that right now. And I'm going to some meetings here next week to start meeting with these airlines. So we're moving forward.
But when you have a big airline like that, they all operate hub and spoke, or at least American does. I mean, once you get to Charlotte, you can go anywhere.
That's correct.
Anywhere in the world, 1 or 2 connections. And so it really opens Lakeland up to the rest of the world as far as aviation goes. And that's pretty cool.
Yep, and we also get with this airline question, about whether, because I've been talking a lot about, Delta or American or even United up to Washington Dulles. Then we always get the questions, what about Allegiant, or what about Spirit, or what about Frontier? Allegiant's tough because, they're in Tampa, St. Pete, and they're in Orlando, Sanford, and Punta Gorda, so they really have shored up, Central Florida and where they're going to want to be for a long time. And Spirit's growing in the big airports as well as Frontier. But we need something that works for us, and we're looking for niches. So whether it's a Draken, or it's the Hurricane Hunters, or it's Charlotte service, we're looking for niches, because our goal is not to be the next Tampa or Orlando International Airports and have 80, 100, hundreds and hundreds of flights a day. It wouldn't make sense for us. But to really find niches that work for us so we can serve our community the best we can.
Well, this was fascinating. Thank you both so much for coming.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Stay with us, and we'll talk with Commissioner Hall when we get back.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back to the program. With us now are Commissioner John Hall and County Manager Jim Freeman. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Let's start with how much experience the two of you have had with the county, because I know you've been around for a while now. Mr. Freeman, how many years have you worked for the county?
I started working for Polk County in 1989, so almost 30 years.
Wow. And how about you, Commissioner Hall?
I
Some people might not know that you started out working for the county.
Yes, I did. I worked on the employee side for almost 35 years before I retired to run for the board. I started in May of 1975, so it's been over 40 years now.
How about that?
Yes.
Now, for those who don't know, Mr. Freeman, you recently made an announcement. What was that?
Well, I informed the board a couple of months ago that I'll be retiring on my last day is July 31st of this year. So I'm working out my notice right now.
Wow. Now, what was your journey, your employment journey through the county? Where did you start?
My background is in information technology. Now, the type of technical work I did in the 70s and 80s, technology's totally changed, but that's where I started. So the Polk County hired me originally as the Director of Information Technology, and I did that for several years. Then I was promoted to the department head over all of the, what we called administrative services, all the internal services, personnel and human and risk management and procurement and IT. Then became a deputy county manager in the early 2000s, and then became county manager in 2010.
Oh. And how about you, Commissioner?
Well, one of the things that Jim left out and when he was naming all of those divisions was facilities management, and I don't know how you could overlook that, because that's where I came from. Jim actually promoted me to division director at facilities management in 1999 after he had been named as the admin services director. So we've had a long working relationship, either working with each other, me working for him, and now as it ends up him working for me as a county commissioner. It's been a great ride, I think, for both of us so far. And there's things when you get to this point that you can't buy. And that is institutional memory. When you start to get decades behind you here, and it's things that have been done for the county's benefit that people are quite unaware of. And Jim, as the admin services director, I'll tell the story again if you don't mind. We were looking at buying a piece of property to put a central Polk government center on, and we searched all around the Bartow and central Polk area, and at that point in time, the deputy county manager, Jim Roden, came to us and said, hey, we found a piece of property. It's 200 yards from the center of the county. So we started dealing with the owners of the property, and were able to work out a deal where we could purchase 218 of those acres for future government expansion out there. And Jim was responsible for running that to the Board of County Commissioners at the time, and the first two times that he did that were unsuccessful. They did not reach a successful conclusion as far as just kicking the can down the road. And the third time that he ran it to the board, they agreed to it, split vote. I told him at that point in time that history would bear witness that that's one of the best things that we could have done for this county at that point in time, and it has. Because we have our utilities out there, we have the sheriff's office out there, we have the medical examiner's office out there, and now we have Polk State College. Their public safety school is on that site. So that's just one of the things that Jim has been involved, one of the thousands of things that he's been involved with that will historically make a big difference for the citizens of this county for decades to come.
Now, when you have someone who has brought us over decades to where we are now, how do you then, when he chooses to retire, how do you even go about looking for someone to become the next county manager?
Well, when I was approached, when Jim approached me and told me what his plans were, immediately I started thinking about what do we want in a county manager. And since we can't legally clone
him, yeah.
We have to come up with some traits that we want in a county manager. And I thought, things like being analytical, not prone to knee-jerk reactions, wanting all the information before you make a decision. Those are the types of things that we want. And top of the list is being conservative. We don't want to expand county government any more than we absolutely have to. So those are the types of things that we were looking for when we started a search for a new manager. Fortunately for us, we were able to find someone in-house that fit that mold, and we've made that selection already. So we'll be moving on, as Jim does, with a new county manager. And I think that with his years of experience, Bill Beasley, and working for Jim, that he will be able to pick up and carry the mantle on. We've had 7 total either county administrators or county managers, 8 if you count Jim Roden when he was named as interim, and I've had the privilege to work with or for every one of them. And I will tell you that having had an opportunity to view every one of them is how I came up with those things that are going to be important to me as we move forward. And Jim will be missed because he fits every one of those items.
Yeah. Now, since you started at the county, this county has gone through some explosive growth. How difficult has that, first of all, was it anticipated, and how difficult has it been to either manage it or keep up with it?
Well, I grew up in the metro Atlanta area, so certainly in my earlier life I experienced in my hometown rapid growth in population and the types of issues you have to deal with both as a citizen or a government employee. When I came to Polk County, my first impression was the Lakeland area had some of the same issues that I saw in the metro Atlanta area with traffic and those types of things. But I've lived in Winter Haven for the past almost 30 years, and it was a little more quiet there. So what really has changed in the years that I've been here is not just the growth, but a lot of the growth and the urbanization, if you will, of the county has moved east and north. So there's a much larger area and many more cities and large parts of the unincorporated area that are now dealing with the effects of growth in terms of demand for infrastructure and the need for government services. So it does bring about challenges, but it's also something that's interesting to try to have a vision of how to address and how to come up with strategies to deal with that. So it's been a challenge.
Mm-hmm. And are there, I mean, sometimes people say infrastructure and the average person will say, okay, roads.
Right.
What are some of the other things that are involved?
Well, you're right. When you use the word infrastructure, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is because congestion is a daily impact for a citizen that lives in an area that's growing or traffic counts are increasing. It's constantly in front of you. But there's other types of infrastructure. The northeast part of the county, where we've seen really explosive residential growth in the last 25 years. We've had to build parks. We built a sheriff's substation. We've had to expand our water and sewer capacity in that area, and a variety of other types of municipal services that area demands to have the quality of life they need. So that's a broad topic. We also have a landfill that we operate as Polk County that serves all of the county. So some of the infrastructure we have in terms of the county serves the whole county, and then other types are in certain geographic regions that require various types of services and various types of infrastructure.
Well, I know that water is a topic that is of importance and near and dear to the hearts of both you and your senior management and the commissioners. What did you set up in terms of water and looking forward to water needs?
Well, one of the things in Florida generally that has been a long-standing concern is the availability in the future of the potable water needs without having an adverse impact on the environment. We have a lot of natural resources in Florida, and especially in Polk County, that we're proud of. It's part of our heritage and part of our culture. And it became apparent, almost 20 years ago, that the demands for potable water were going to have an adverse impact on lakes and streams and other things that we value. So we started working, the county did, with our city partners, water management districts, to try to put together a long-term strategy to provide for the potable water needs of the county and also to preserve our natural resources. And it became apparent that one of the things we had to do as local government, both the 15 cities in Polk County that have water systems, as well as the 6 regions of the county where the county provides potable waters, we had to work together. It was too complex, too expensive, and require too much coordination for each local government to do their own thing. So we started a process in the mid-2000s that resulted ultimately in a comprehensive water supply plan and the creation of the Polk Regional Water Cooperative, that is an active agency with elected officials from each of the city governments and the county government that is working toward planning for, designing, and coming up with a strategy to pay for the necessary infrastructure and the sources of water that we'll need to ensure that businesses and citizens in the future have access to the water resource without the adverse environmental impacts that were projected.
Yeah. Well, I know over the next couple of months you will hear a lot about how grateful the citizenry and the employees and indeed the board are for your steady, thoughtful leadership. And we'd like to say it here to start with, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot of it over the next couple of months. But thank you so much for everything you've done.
Well, everything that's accomplished is part of a team, and I've been very fortunate to have commissioners that gave me the opportunity to serve, were supportive of me, and just as importantly, I had staff that were experienced and quality managers to help oversee this large and complex an organization. So I appreciate the comments, but I, at the end of the day, know that I'm just part of a large group of dedicated county employees that work together to try to make the quality of life in this county as good as possible, and I know they'll keep doing that long after I'm gone.
And thank you, Commissioner Hall, and the other commissioners for building the bridge that has allowed us to look to the future and to Mr. Beasley and what he will accomplish.
It's been our pleasure, actually, and we all, I can say this, having been in meetings with the other commissioners, hate to see Jim go. We are appreciative of the legacy that he leaves behind and the training, really, that he has given a lot of county employees, including myself. So I just want to say that here openly. Thank you. And we'll still be in touch. I know he's going to be spending time with his grandkids, so we'll stay in touch.
Well, thank you both for being on the show and for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Commissioner's Report. We'll see you next month.